And Senior Research Fellow at the INSS, Dr. Emily Landau, joins me in studio with some analysis. Dr. Landau, of course, just looking at that colourful relationship, we have to look at that in terms of how we got here and then what we're seeing in the current landscape. A lot of posturing here. What do you make of this latest missile test and what's being said about it? Kim Jong-un saying it was a tactical guided weapon.
I think we need to look at this latest missile test in the context of the dynamic that sort of began about a week ago. And the dynamic after close to 2 months, I guess, of nothing happening on this front since the Hanoi summit, suddenly we heard a little bit of a door opening to a possible third summit. President Trump said that he's open to it. Kim said he's open to it if the United States gets serious about, their offer by the end of the year. And so what we're seeing now is Kim trying to push Trump to come to a summit with a deal that's more in line with what he's looking for, which is maximum sanctions relief. And we see Trump, being willing perhaps to consider that type of dialogue, but right now more in the responding mode rather than
it's always mode. Kind of been that way in terms of the interesting way that these two leaders tend to communicate with each other is to say, I want something, well, I'll almost embarrass you in respect with a missile test when Trump's trying to make things seem like things are moving in the right direction after what many are calling a failed summit, where both leaders seem to misunderstand each other and what they were wanting out of this going in.
Well, I think we have to pay attention to the nuances. And the nuance here is actually Kim, yes, he's trying to push Trump, but he's being wary of pushing Trump too far. And if we compare his statement now with the statements that he made back in November 2018, in January just this year, when he said, if you don't lift sanctions, we might have to go back to our nuclear program. If you don't lift sanctions, we might have to adopt a different approach to the United States. This time he didn't say that. He said that we have to, push back against those that are putting sanctions on us, but he meant that you need to make North Korea's economy more self-reliant. And even with this test, notice, it's not a violation of the moratorium, not on long-range missile testing and not on nuclear testing.
But it's certainly sending a message.
Well, it's sending a message, but we have to pay attention that it's a more nuanced message, and it's actually Kim saying, I want to pressure you, but I'm not going to cross a red line that might get you a little bit too mad, because I do want to enter a third round of dialogue.
And then perhaps part of that pressure, this upcoming meeting between North Korea and Vladimir Putin, at least the Kremlin says that's happening later this month. But then Pompeo seems to be the player that seems to be the most threatening, at least on the surface of things, to Kim Jong-un.
Well, again, you're not getting a message against President Trump. Notice that, okay? He wants to target someone in the administration, so he's targeting Pompeo, not targeting Trump. So in terms of the messaging, I think actually President Trump gained leverage at Hanoi when he signaled to Kim that there are red lines to the negotiation, and he's not going to lift all the sanctions all at once, and therefore we see Kim, yes, trying to pressure, but being wary of not pressuring too hard.
But despite being, I don't know if you want to call it entertaining, the drama that goes back and forth between these two leaders, I suppose trying to do an Austin Powers-style park to get this deal in, what should we really be focusing on? What's the danger of this consistent back and forth and the insults and the jibes that they're taking at one another?
I think what we need to understand is everyone talks about denuclearization, but denuclearization is not happening anytime soon. And this process is actually a process of tension reduction. So the challenge for the Trump administration right now is to keep this process going, to understand they're not going to get denuclearization, but they need a concrete success for the next summit, if there is a summit. And therefore, they have to think carefully what they're going to put on the table, what kind of nuclear concession they want from North Korea in return for which sanctions relief. Get a success, keep the process going, and understand that because past mistakes are what enabled North Korea to go nuclear, it's a difficult challenge right now, and it's necessarily going to be a long process.
Absolutely. It's definitely not going to be something that's solved overnight. Absolutely. Dr. Landau, thank you so much for that insight.
You're welcome.